Yep.
Good evening. The Lapeer Community School Board of Education meeting is now in order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So Magno, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Magno. Okay. On to public comment. I don't see any public comment for this evening. So we will move right into the reports. So we have the Finance and Operation Committee. So Mrs. Novak, would you please share with us the report from the Finance and Operations Committee meeting?
Yes. So, committee members that attended were myself, Denise Becker, and Brad Hagedorn, Matt, Mark Rader, Danielle Corbell, and then we had two people from Plant and Moran, Donna Hanson and Tiffany Stacy. The meeting was called to order at 4 o'clock via Zoom conference. We discussed, first of all, the Plant Moran audit communication. Donna and Tiffany from the district's independent auditing firm, Plant Moran, discussed with the committee the pre-audit communication to the board. This included the auditor's responsibilities under generally accepted auditing standards and the plan, scope, and timing of the audit. And that's actually generally accepted accounting standards. Anyway, the discussion also provides the board an opportunity to communicate with the auditors on matters that may affect the audit or impact the audit. Donna stated that Lapeer Community Schools is in compliance with all financial practices. And then we discussed an amendment to the Open Schools IT Service Agreement. Mark Rader reviewed the updated Open Schools IT Service Agreement. Changes to this agreement included new positions for our current LCS employees, Steve Schabel, Technical Support Specialist, and Frank Foxier, Senior Technical Support Specialist. It was a consensus of the committee to recommend full board approval at this meeting tonight. We just had an update on the State Revenue Conference from Mark Rader and Danielle Corbell. They updated us on the State Revenue Conference and how it affects our budget. The overall news was much better than expected, with the school aid fund being in a much healthier position than originally estimated at the May Revenue Conference. The proration to fiscal year 20 was $175 per student, with an offset of an additional $350 per student in fiscal year 21. Still unsolved is what the budget for the school aid fund will look like for fiscal year 21. Indicators show cuts should not be as deep as originally predicted by the state. As more information becomes available in the coming weeks, the board will be updated. And then we discussed the 2020 tax levy and Form L 4029. Each year we must approve as a board a resolution along with the Form L 4029, which specifies to the treasurers of the various townships the exact amount to levy for the district's operating non-homestead, village, and voted district debt levy. There was a slight heavy rollback resulting in a reduction of the maximum allowable millage for non-homestead from 21 mils to 20.9874 mils. Mark explained that the district will maintain the debt millage at 2.75 mils. The board will be asked to approve the L 4029 at the September 2nd board meeting. And we adjourn the meeting at 4:39 p.m.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
Just a question. How did it feel to have a meeting without her? It was weird.
It's different, yeah. Donna did a good job.
I'm sure he's been with us for a
I
very long
know,
time.
yeah.
We were one of his original accounts. Young auditor.
Yeah, it was different.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mrs. Novak. We will now move into the action items portion of the agenda. The first is a consent grouping of the approval of the minutes of August 5th, 2020 regular meeting, and the first reading of board policies 8460 COVID preparedness and response workplace plan. Any of these consent grouping items you wish to be removed this evening?
I move the reading of the minutes be waived and the consent agenda items be approved as presented.
I have a motion and a support. Mrs. Novak?
Aye.
Mr. Nolan?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Dr. Watson?
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam says aye. Motion carries. Okay, next we have the resolution approving the 2020 tax levy and Form L 4029.
I'll make a motion that the 2019 tax levy resolution and Form L 4029 be approved as presented.
Support.
Okay, I have a motion and a support. Any discussion on the motion?
Only just a comment to remind everyone that people hopefully do understand this is non-homestead taxes. And this is something that we are required to do every year and have done thankfully successfully every year.
Thank you for that reminder. Any other discussion? Okay. Mrs. Novak?
Aye.
Mr. Nolan?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Mrs. Becker?
Aye.
Dr. Watson?
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam says aye. Motion carries. Okay, and then the last action item, updated district shared service agreement.
I'll make a motion that the updated district shared service agreement be approved as presented.
Support.
Okay, I have a motion and a support. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, okay, Mrs. Novak?
Aye.
Mr. Nolan?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Mrs. Becker?
Aye.
Dr. Watson?
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam says aye. Motion carries. Okay, this brings us to the presentation portion of our agenda. Superintendent Wonder, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam President. It's my honor to introduce Mr. Spilsky, Mr. Hamilton, and Mr. Cross, who are going to be giving us quite a presentation that we do every fall to give the board an update on kind of a year review and then goals moving forward. We typically do it in August, don't we, Shad?
We do.
We bumped it to September for obvious reasons.
Right.
Whole year.
There was something going on, I don't know what's going on.
August, a couple things. All right, take it away, guys.
So thank you so much for having us tonight. We're excited to kind of talk about last year and then what's coming up this year. So as we go through the presentation, Zach and Rich will kind of hop in and talk a little bit about middle school stuff. And we'll talk about some numbers and then kind of what we see going forward for this next year. So our 2019-2020 year review, the accomplishments, talk a little bit about the booster clubs, and we'll talk about what's going on for this upcoming school year. So for at the high school, we had a lot of accomplishments last year, even though it was a shortened year. As you guys all know, on March 13th, the season ended for us. So we were 3 to 4 days, maybe 5 days into practice of the spring season, and you're going to see that kind of reflect in some of our numbers when we get to participation towards the end of the school year. But you can see our football team was the SBL champions for the second year in a row. Made it to the districts and lost to Davidson. I hate saying that name, but lost to Davidson. We went on to win the state championship this year or last year. So,
Shad, this is an aside. How many years in the last 7 years have we gotten knocked out of the state playoffs by the eventual state champ? Romeo, Clarkson twice, and Davidson. Is that 4?
And Clarkson was in our district the year that they won it. When we lost to Davidson, that 14-12 game that year.
Yeah.
They won it that year too. So 5 out of the 6 years that we've been, the team has played for the state championship in our district.
That's incredible.
So yeah, it was a tough loss, but.
So we're considering moving the community schools to a different part of the state. So as to avoid playing this eventual state champion.
Right. Our boys cross country team, they won the county meet last year. Bill Spurdy was really excited about that. Jeremy Williams was a state qualifier. I think that's holding our second state qualifier since the merger, which is a very difficult task to get there. I was very fortunate today to go watch. We ran a home cross country meet in the city of Lapeer for the first time in a long time. We normally host it out at Trzuski. The trail system behind Rolling Warner has really allowed us to have our home cross country meet. So they're going to have another one. And these guys will talk about cross country for the middle schools, but a great course. Bill and Russ and coaching staff put together a great course, and Jeremy finished first at the end of the day. He ran 16:25. So They wanted me to pace him. I said I had a board meeting. So I said, I'll stand down here. So girls bowling placed third at regionals, which qualifies them for state. And actually, Matt and I were on the phone. The girls had a great state run. They tied for 8th place. And to get into the finals, you have to be one of the top 8 schools. They had to go in a bowl-off with another school to make it to the Thunderdome down in Allen Park. So it's what you see on the Saturday mornings on the professional bowling. It's the arena where those guys do their bowling. And our girls made it all the way there. Ended up losing in their 8th place, or they were kind of against the number 1 seed team in the state. But such a great experience. I tell you what, I think it's one of my most favorite events to go to, along with probably semifinals of state wrestling. But there doesn't get to be any better event. The place is crazy. It is packed wall to wall. And so I know Coach Withy was really excited. The girls were super excited, even though they had to kind of have a pull off to get into that final event. But really cool event. Really, really proud of the girls and the season they had. We hosted district football. We hosted quarterfinal volleyball in the spring. Teams participated in virtual training. That was a very new challenge for a lot of our coaches. And just like our teaching happened last spring, it was very, the coaches didn't necessarily know how to handle that a little bit. We had some coaches that did a really good job with it, and we had other coaches that kind of struggled with it because they're so used to working with kids face to face and working through that. And I think there was hope all the way going into May that they were going to be able to come back and be able to finish their seasons, and that just didn't happen. So I know that those sports were really disappointed, especially for our seniors last spring, to finish out on a high note. Our summer strength and conditioning program, once that June 15th date came out, we really did a head year so that our strength and conditioning program could get going. And it looked very different this year. It was all outside. It was over at the stadium. We had different sessions, and it finally came down to 2 sessions. But on day 2, we had over 200 kids participating in that strength and conditioning program. When we've had it at the high school, when we've used the weight room and just the facility at the high school, over the last 2 years, I've been telling you, we have about 90 to 100 kids doing that. So to have over 205 in those couple days of one, I think they were super excited to see their own friends. So it's a social thing, because after about 2 weeks, they realized that they hadn't been doing anything for 3 months, and this was really, really hard. But we averaged about 140 to 150 kids on a daily basis, working all outside, not being indoors. And Coach Smith would tell you that his kids were probably, for the football team, were probably in better running shape than they've ever been in their entire life. So it was a very different thing, and I think we're going to be able to take some of the things we did this last summer, and once we can get back in the weight room, we're going to incorporate some of that stuff. And using the facility is what saved us. Using the turf, doing everything over there really helped us to be able to manage that number of kids in a short amount of time.
Well, I also want to say that, Shad's efforts and the efforts of our coaches and that of our summer school teaching staff gave us the opportunity to kind of field test a lot of the protocols that we intend to use, in terms of how do they had to temperature check, we had to check students in every day, and so when they weren't involved in an activity and have multiple sessions as opposed to just one. So it gave us the opportunity to really understand the dynamics of checking students in and monitoring, their activity and proximity to one another. And it was hard to say that was anything but hugely successful. So
yeah, I think so. So every morning at 8 o'clock, Mike and I were down at the stadium, and either we used the My Symptoms app, which we asked our staff to use. We put it together for our kids. We figured that's the easiest way to know the 5 questions that they might just say ask you whether or not the kid can practice or not. And so, some kids, believe it or not, don't have a whole lot of technology, and so we had to ask those questions instead of just showing us on the phone, but we took the temperature of every single kid. We bought their monitors, and I know there's places, and I've talked to other people that didn't do it like that, and didn't monitor that piece of it. I can tell you, as we get into this a little bit later, when we talk about fall athletics, I know that I feel like I can go to sleep every night knowing that we did everything possible for our kids to be healthy, to participate in athletics. I think we put in a great protocol, and our kids, we see the benefit that they've had. Next one is our huddle focus and sideline upgrades. Huddle is a software program that we use for videoing our events. Last year, we were fortunate enough to buy a camera that's inside the gymnasium now. So for basketball, the coaches can hit record on it and it records kids going up and down the floor. There doesn't have to be a parent standing up in the stands anymore recording that stuff. At football games, wouldn't work. We had an end zone camera and a camera up in the booth, and it could give live feed to the coaches on the sideline. All of our teams got upgraded in their ability to use it. Previously to using the Huddle Focus and the sideline upgrades, we only had about 5 teams that paid for that service. And a lot of them were very limited on how much storage they had. It upgraded almost every sport that we had, from a silver bracket to a gold bracket, so they had more storage, more kids could access it, they could, we can stream stuff live off of it. So a really great addition to the athletic department for all of our programs across the board, from hockey to football to soccer to baseball to track. So all of our programs have the ability to use it if they choose. This summer, we discontinued our partnership with ATI, our PT group, and we've gone with HealthQuest, which is here in town. Kind of our reasoning there is we had signed a 2-year agreement with ATI, and then when COVID happened, they put our trainers on furlough, and they wanted to renegotiate our contract. Matt and I talked a long time about it, and HealthQuest had come to us the year before with a proposal, and we just didn't think it was at the right time. ATI was going to offer us 2 years for a better price. Brian down at HealthQuest offered us a great package for this year that was actually less than ATI, and gave us our 1.5 trainers that we have. ATI was going to take a half a trainer away from us. So we felt it was a really good thing for our training staff, but also for our kids, because if they go get PT, it's here locally. We did not have an ATI place here in town. They'd have to go to Davison, or they could go up towards North Ranch to do it. Here, Brian's already seen a lot of our kids already in the clinic. So it's really an easy thing when our kids get out of school. If they had to go get PT before practice, they can go down there, done in an hour, get back to practice. We just thought it was a lot more practical in what we were trying to do. We were able to keep Melissa. She didn't have to give up she was able to give up her contract without having a non-negotiated non-compete, because she was on furlough. So it really helped that transition. That was one thing that we were really worried about with going with HealthQuest 2 years ago, that she would not been able to work. So I think it kind of worked out for everybody involved. Last year, we had talked a little bit about the Saginaw Valley League status. I know Brad was very interested in some of the conversations that we were having. So kind of just to fill everybody in, we were having conversations with the Oxfords, the Lakeorians, the Clarkstons, the Romeos, talking about creating a new league, because there's some unrest and some unhappiness amongst different leagues throughout the entire state. At the end of the day, Oxford was really the only one willing to make that jump. And as we kind of talked through the whole thing, we need about 8 schools to make that jump so that it becomes a good conference. We only had about 5 to 6 that were willing to do it. It was going to be really hard to schedule a lot of things. And this is pre-COVID. It was going to be really hard to schedule stuff. Now it would be even more difficult. So at the end of the day, we chose to stay at the Saginaw Valley right now. And I think the big thing, if we look at the picture, the Saginaw Valley has become more competitive across all sports. I mean, they have a state champion in football. They've had a couple basketball state champions. They have a couple of swim state champions. I mean, across the board, they are winning a lot of things at the state level. So we felt it was in our best interest for at least the foreseen, or the time going forward a little bit, to stay with the Saginaw Valley and just see where kind of everything falls. We can always revisit this, and I know that those other schools are always looking to revisit it, but we need a lot more than 5 or 6 schools willing to make that jump. We need, 8, 9, 10 possibly to make that jump, and then we get board approval. So we just didn't think it was the right time, especially as the talks were kind of winding down in February and COVID happened in March, to make that jump, not knowing what this was. So with that, I will turn it over to Zach and Rich.
Thanks, Jeff. Some accomplishments for us at the middle school level. This past fall, October, we held the GFMSL Middle School Cross Country League meet. Approximately 550 student athletes and 17 teams, 1,000 spectators. And really a credit goes to Kevin Ginsky and Andy Slaughter, our middle school coaches, and the high school staff as well. They made our lives really easy as ADs, which, having run tournaments before in the past, did not run anywhere near that smooth. I can tell you, when you have coaches that are on the ball and just they go out to work just as well, if not more than you do, to make your life really easy. So ran really smooth. So got in and out in a couple of hours. Got some compliments on how things were run. So we were looking forward to doing it again this year. Unfortunately, with COVID and the restrictions that are put in place, we can't have a league meet with that many teams obviously not being permitted to be in the same place at the same time, at least in our region. So hopefully next year and in the future we will host a league meet and or some larger invitations at the middle school level. Our coaches were very active on BNN on our website. I don't believe there were any either 7th or 8th grade where there weren't a game posted, a game summary posted at least 24 hours after a game. Nice thing is that populates right to Facebook. We share it to our respective social media accounts. And it's a good way to get the good things we're doing out there for parents to read, community to read. Now our coaches will copy and paste the body of that and give it to our building secretaries for morning announcements. So again, any way we can celebrate the positive things our kids are doing outside of the building, we want to do that. So our coaches are also very active in using different communication apps like the Mind, Team app, Band app to basically have a group where they communicate with parents, they communicate with players, hey, snow day, no practice, or hey, weather looks bad, we're gonna call practice, we're gonna, go again tomorrow, or hey, we're gonna wait, we're gonna push practice back an hour, things like that. So really allows our coaches to do a good job communicating with parents and players. Cross country was very active in the summertime with getting ready for the season. Obviously, there's the way the sport runs and lends itself to being able to do that. We had some other camps and things kind of loosely planned in the spring, but with COVID, unfortunately, we weren't able to put those together. Also, middle school athletics became part of the Lapeer Athletic Boosters officially, so they've been very active in helping us out, helping us raise some money. I think recently bought a timer for our cross-country program and looking at improving some more other things, some other infrastructure and things of that nature at the middle school level. So we appreciate that and look forward to working with them moving forward. Zach?
One thing I wanted to say, one more thing about with this last slide that Rich just mentioned was the summer conditioning with the cross country program. We had around 20 kids that came out almost 3 or 4 times a week during the summer to run cross country. And today we've started our season. We have 40 kids signed up for cross country. We had our League AD meeting today, and there was several schools that reported that they had less than 10 kids coming out for the sport because they hadn't done the summer stuff and they hadn't been recruiting as they normally would. But this was one of the aspects of it that really helped our program to continue moving forward, even though it's obviously a difficult time. So I wanted to bring highlight a little bit more attention to the spring sports season because I do believe that it was one of the most important things that we did athletically last year at the middle school level. It was an extremely difficult time, obviously, when everything just halted back in March, but it was especially difficult for our kids because all of a sudden one day everything that they care about was just taken away from them. And for a lot of our kids, athletics is one of those really important things that they look forward to and they've been looking forward to. So I was really proud of our athletic team and our coaches and everybody involved that we decided to move forward and give the kids an experience even though it wouldn't be a traditional one. So what we did at the middle school level was we created Google Classrooms, much like they did with their subjects when everything went virtual. So we had a Google Classroom for baseball, Google Classroom for softball, Google Classroom for track. Kids got in and signed up just as they did with all their other classes, and it was like a separate experience for them. So our coaches would go in and twice a week they'd post assignments. So baseball coach would post a video about how to field ground balls and some different techniques and things of that nature. And then the kids would practice a skill and they'd track what they were doing and twice a week they'd learn a new skill for those sports. And at a time in 7th and 8th grade when it's a very important time in their growth athletically for these sports. One of the most important times as they get ready for high school. So it was really important to me that they got that experience. Obviously it wasn't, the normal face-to-face. It wasn't as good as if we had them in here every day competing, but it was something. And especially at the middle school level, obviously high school still we're working with kids and whatnot, but at the middle school level, a lot of places just stopped and didn't do anything for the kids. And we had 71 6th to 8th grade students signed up and participating in these Google Classrooms over the spring. So And with that, I'll turn it back over to Chad.
Thanks, guys. So some really good stuff going on for our middle school program. I think we're starting to kind of turn the corner a little bit and getting kids participating, but also getting our coaches to take a little bit more action and doing some stuff there. I want to talk a little bit about the Booster Club. Big number right there. Distributed over $41,000 to 21 athletic teams last year and to the 2020 graduates. Without them, a lot of our programs wouldn't have the things that they have, from equipment to just even nice and shooting shirts and that kind of stuff. They've done a lot over the last couple of years with the group that we have to give a lot of money away. The honors convocation, normally they give away about 8 athletic scholarships. There was 18 kids who applied for this year, and they felt because of the experience the kids were going through that they would honor all 18 of them, and they gave 18 $500 scholarships away. So that's unheard of. We've never given away that many. Their big fundraisers, as we talked before, is the football fall concessions. That's going to be a big knock for them this year. If they're not going to have that ability to do that. The December craft show. We'll see what December brings. I mean, that's another big one. They're moving forward with it. They are moving forward with it as of right now.
Make it happen, Denise.
I know, well, that's my question was, what does the work group deal do in November when?
So they are moving forward with it, contacting crafters, doing all the things that they do. Donations, their spirit wear, they do have a spirit store. And then they did the travel raffle, which was the, last year I think it was the European one. Unfortunately, Mr. Walker didn't win this last year, he won the year before.
Very
I know there's I know because I sold him.
Very unfortunate. Yeah, she had someone the ticket the day before.
Yeah.
Best $100 ever spent. Thank you.
You're welcome, absolutely. As Zach and Rich talked, in addition to the middle school athletics, we've been talking as a Booster Club board about including them and making it Lapeer athletics, not just Lapeer high school athletics. We know that the middle school sports teams don't necessarily have the opportunities to fundraise the way the high school does. And the Booster Club wanted to encompass the whole 612 movement that we've had over the last couple of years. So they met and have put together subcommittees within the middle school to have voting rights within the board, but also to be an advocate for those programs. So they started out with giving $5,000, appropriating $5,000 for the middle school programs. As Zach and Rich talked about, they bought a timing system for the cross-country stuff already that they will use. But they are on board with what we're trying to do athletically. They really believe in growing our own kids and supporting all athletics once kids reach that middle school to high school level. So they're a great group of people to work with. They just got their webpage up and going, so that it's they have a Lapeer Booster Club webpage. If you go to our athletic webpage at lapeerlending.com, go to the More tab. There's a link there to go to the Athletic Booster Club webpage. So they've been working hard on this stuff. They just finished a couple raffles this last summer. They did a virtual 5K in the month of July, and then they did a staycation. They went and seeked out places in the community and bought gift cards for those places so that families could do things here locally and help out local people. They are looking at a couple more fundraisers here in the next couple months to help recoup some of the money that was losing in the concession. So great group of people who are working really, really hard for our athletic programs. And not just one program, it's across the board. I would say there's probably 2 or 3 athletic teams that haven't tapped into this yet, but they are doing a lot of work and doing a lot of amazing things. So tonight we're going to focus a little bit on the upcoming year. So last year our kind of motto was from me to we. Now it's team. We have a 6-12 team across the board with our athletic booster club to things going from the middle school to high school. We're going to talk a little bit about the MHSA update for educational athletics. There's news about that every day, it seems like. And then continuing increasing communication. So at the administration level, we continue to have athletic director and district administration meetings throughout last year. We've already started those this year with Kim. We brought on Mike Smith, and so he's a part of those conversations too because of the role that he fills at the high school. Those meetings have led to a lot of the things you guys are hearing about, the 6-12 concept of bringing athletics that way. Some of the stuff what we did with the summer or in the springtime with having coaches, reach out to kids and have them involved in stuff during the spring season. We are also continuing to do league meetings and the MIAAA membership, which is kind of the professional organization the athletic directors are part of, where they can get more education, where they can get PD. Unfortunately, this last year, that got wiped out because it was a week after COVID hit, so that 4 days in Traverse City was a big miss for us, because not only do you go there to learn stuff, but it's collaborating with colleagues and hearing what other people are doing to try to get better at what we do. Our next steps obviously is professional development. One thing I've talked with Zach and Rich about, and I think we're already starting to do, you're starting to see that they're taking over league meetings and that kind of stuff for the league championships, is becoming more involved in community work. At the MHSA level, I've been a part of the basketball committee for the last 2 years, and not that it was my idea, but one of the ideas that they just approved at the basketball level for high school is they're allowing a 5th quarter for student athletes, especially for students or small schools. So a kid can play 3 quarters of freshman and 2 quarters of JV. There's a lot of small schools, especially on the girls' side, that have to cut a freshman girls basketball team because all they have are juniors and seniors and a bunch of freshmen. So by creating a 5th quarter, you can divvy up the team a little bit more to where kids can play a little bit more. And that was something that we had in Wyoming that I proposed to them, and they kind of ran with it a little bit and tweaked it to what fits our needs here. So it's being a part of that. I was just asked to be a part of the golf committee just last week. So being a part of those committee groups, I think, is really important so that it has a voice of what we need in our area, but also maybe making some changes that help the sport overall within educational athletics. Coaching level, 6-12 sport-specific preseason meetings. We did that this year through Zoom. Last year we did it face-to-face, but we had all of our coaches, so they're hearing the same message from us. So it's not just coming from Zach or Rich or myself, it's coming from all 3 of us so that they're understanding what we expect across the board as a 6-12 program. Whether you're the head football coach or the 7th grade assistant football coach, that message needs to be heard across the board of here's what we're doing, here's what we believe, and here's how we're going to help kids best succeed. Our next steps are sports-specific monthly coaching meetings. This started to happen a little bit last year. We need to get better at it. It's really hard that in some sports that the coaches see the lower levels. And that's something we got to focus on better. I think sometimes our lower level coaches don't necessarily know what they need to be doing on a weekly basis or on sometimes a situational type of thing. So our more experienced coaches, our varsity coaches, need to have a little bit more input and need to help coach those people along. As I said, head coach presence at lower levels of practice and competition. We got to do better at that too. That's something I think is really important, and we're starting to see some of that paid off within some of the sports that we have going right now. Continued professional development through CAP courses. I can't say enough about CAP courses for our coaches. I think that's their PD. It has saved us a lot in the sense of them becoming more knowledgeable about how to do things right, how to deal with situations. And with the whole COVID thing now, we've had to even do some PD with them, what they need to be doing when it comes to reporting. Kim has talked a lot about kind of the protocol of what happens if somebody is exposed compared to somebody testing positive. We're having to teach our coaches what information they need to collect from kids so that we can get information out to families or to kids on what the next steps are. Continue to promote our strength and conditioning program. Like I said, I'm super excited about this summer. We had a great turnout, but we need to maybe start looking at how do we incorporate more middle school stuff going forward. I think that's going to be a big piece of it too, and age-appropriate stuff. And then continue to prepare staff and athletes to win SVL and district championships. I think that's our next step. I don't want to be mediocre. I don't want to be in the middle of the pack. And the Saginaw Valley, they print a report every season on how many points you get based on how many wins you had, where you finished in the conference, how far you get into districts. And we've always been kind of in the middle of the pack. We need to step our game up. We need to start competing at a higher level. So it's, having that win today mentality and having that focus throughout the entire season. For the athletes, it's increasing participation in our strength and conditioning program. Like I said, our numbers were great. Increase overall athletic participation, including multi-sport athletes. I think that's one of the biggest things is we have a big school, and we're probably not getting every kid that needs to be participating in something. How do we reach those kids? How do we continue to target kids who we see walking the halls and getting them to come out and be a part of it? Because we all know that if we get the hook in them, they will stay, they'll do better in school, their attendance will be better, they won't be in trouble as much. How do we target some of those kids who may have done it through the youth programs and maybe it started in middle school and just said, you know what, I don't want to do it anymore. We have enough to offer everybody, we need to keep those kids involved. And then academically, continue to increase our LHS scholar and our SVL scholar athletes. I think that's a great award that parents are super excited about at our banquets. Let's continue to do that, promote having a great GPA, having the things that you need to require, being a part of a varsity sport over multiple years so they can get these awards. Probably the one thing you guys want to hear about the most is the MHSA update. I don't have one. Just kidding. There's been a lot of rumors over the last couple of days in the media that the governor was going to talk about opening up facilities today. That gyms would be open, pools would be open, movie theaters, that's where you'll find me, eating some popcorn, but that didn't happen today. And with that not happening today, it puts 3 of our sports at the high school level and 1 of our middle school in dire straits of what are the next steps, what's going to happen. So currently, cross country, girls tennis, or boys tennis, and girls golf can compete. We've been very fortunate that we've hosted an event here in town in each of those 3 events, or each of those 3 sports over the last couple of weeks. And we've done everything right to make sure that it's happening. These 3 sports, along with football and middle school girls basketball, can't do anything right now. And it's really tough. I'm watching kids struggle. I'm watching kids break down because they can't go and do the thing that they love to do. I think the volleyball team's sick and tired of practicing on grass. I think the girls were very fortunate, and thank you to Rick Fleming at Metamora Country Club. We were so thankful that he opened up the pool, a time slot for the pool for our swim team out there, but they close next week. And Linda Wagner, who's our coach, who works at the rec center, she hasn't been in the rec center in 6 months. So we are in it stresses me out. Probably when my wife comes home and she's like, "You have bloom on your face every day." I'm like, well, our kids are suffering because they can't be where they want to be and they can't compete. At the end of the day, we all played athletics because we wanted to compete. We had a competitive bone in our body that said, "I want to compete," and we can't do it right now. And so it's trying to keep our coach's sanity at a good level. As I told somebody today, I said, I feel like my job right now is just taking everybody's stress and just trying to make sure everybody stays where they need to be so that it doesn't have an impact on our kids. So she came out today saying that there was more to come in the near future about some of these things. Until those open up, we don't get to compete in our region. Unfortunately, in Region 6 and Region 8, they are competing in those sports. So how it's going to play out, I don't know. It's super unfortunate, but it is what it is right now, and we're managing the best that we possibly can. We've been very fortunate to have the facilities that we have, to have the connections and the partnerships with some of the businesses that we have to allow us to do some of the things that we're doing right now. So more to come. If I hear something, I usually pass it on to Mr. Wandry. Sometimes it's put in the newspaper before I even know about it. There was an article about football beginning of the week that I had no clue about until Mike Smith called me and said, "Hey, Aaron, said we're playing football again." I said, I had no clue.
That's because Nick printed it prematurely. I'm checking his source. It was not Nick.
There we are. There's more to come, and I'm hoping that the MHSA holds out a little bit longer because I still think we can salvage some of these seasons to where they can compete and play, even if it kind of carries over into the winter seasons. I think especially for boys soccer, we can play into late October. Same with volleyball. They already do. Middle school girls basketball, I'm a little worried about because their seasons aren't very long. They're practicing outside right now over at the rec center, if I'm not mistaken. So I think playing on concrete is a little bit different than playing on hardwood. So the ball bounces different, I guess. You don't have rocks in hardwood floors. I don't know. So we're waiting more guidance from the MHSAA, and I will obviously pass that on to Mr. Wandry as we get that information going forward. Increased communication. Last year we came to you talking about that we had incorporated school duty into our into the high school. After a year of putting it together and working through it, I think Mark could probably speak to it. I think we're doing a pretty decent job of people turning in requests and us getting it returned to them whether or not they can use our facilities. Unfortunately, I get to see every request that comes into every building on a daily basis, so there's a lot of requests, a lot of people want to use our facility. Next steps are just incorporating it into our other buildings so that they can use those too. And I think we'll have some training with our other secretaries as we do that and go forward. Our progress in communication, we have our Lapeer Lightning webpage that we always use, the district athletic, it's our district athletic website, our scores, information, all that stuff's on there. Zach and Rich talked me into starting a YouTube channel, so there is a Lapeer Lightning athletic YouTube channel now. That's a new endeavor for me, so it's not really great yet, but we are working on it. But we're funneling all of our athletic traffic there. We're starting to utilize Facebook and Twitter a lot better. A lot of our athletic teams already have those things, but I'm learning more about those things and becoming better at communicating that kind of stuff. Team apps is something that we're going to talk about this year big time. As they talked about, the Remind, all those type of apps. We tried to use one with our athletic webpage. Our athletic webpage from BNN. We piloted it at the middle school last year. It was a disaster, so we're not going to use them. But we are going to kind of give our coaches a couple different options to use, whatever best works for them. I mean, we have Oscar Rodriguez who uses Team Remind. If Oscar can do it after 45 years, any of our coaches can definitely do it. So he does a good job of it. And as I said, we added our booster webpage to the athletic webpage. Here's just a listing of all of our offerings that we offer again at the different grade levels. As these guys talked, our cross-country program at the middle school level is really doing a great job of getting kids involved in athletics. That's where we have to start, along with track and wrestling. So that's what starts it for us. So our participation numbers, I'll kind of rush, we'll kind of go through this quickly. As you can see, we have it all the way up to the class of 2026, which were our 6th graders last year. You can see the participation rate has decreased every year. That's not uncommon from as kids mature, fewer kids go for stuff because we offer so many different things. It's not just an athletic thing. Kids are starting to dual enroll. Kids are starting to be involved in other things, or maybe not even in the building at all. We have a lot of kids who are not in the building, a lot don't have a connection necessarily to the building because they're involved in so many different things outside the building with ed tech or dual enrollment or early college. So we've got to increase those numbers. If there's only 87 kids out of the class of 2020 that are playing and there's 467, what do we do to get more of those kids involved? Something we got to continue to work on.
Those numbers are not inconsistent with what's happening across the state.
No, they're not. They're not. Kids aren't as involved with school athletics anymore as they once were. A lot of kids, in our area, are really, really big into the club scene. So they might go play club volleyball all year long and never participate in high school hockey. If you're a hockey person, you're not playing high school hockey. And that's why last year we came here and said we wanted to do a merger between a couple different schools so that we could continue to have hockey here. And so, we have a handful of those kids that are going and playing at a much higher level. From a class, this is our LHS Scholar Athletes. You can see that it's pretty consistent across the board. So these kids are maintaining or having cumulative GPA of 3.5 or higher. And these, we award these throughout the entire year to their different, when they have their big ones. So, even our class of 2021, which would be this senior class, you can see this kind of the participation. There was more kids participating when they were sophomores or freshmen compared to when they were juniors. This is our SVL Scholars, a little bit different requirement. It's a 3.3. It's the second year on the team of the same sport, one of them being varsity year. So, class of 2022, beginning of the spring season. Track is where sometimes we get a lot of those kids because it's a large number of kids that can go and play track or soccer. Some of those sports that have a lot of kids, we didn't get an opportunity to have that for them this year. And then this is just our participation of our multi-sport athletes. This is something that we have to continue to get better at too. Okay, so we want our kids playing in 2 to 3 sports at the high school level, educational athletics, not AAU. There's a place in town for that. Don't get me wrong, but we want to be participating for us wearing that navy and green when they're going to be. This is our female version of that. Same thing. And with that is it. So I appreciate everyone's time. I know I speak a long time, so apologize for that. Question?
Just one. You kept mentioning the strength program. Could you maybe expand a little bit on the value of having somebody like a Mike Bucata who can work with any student, any level, any sport. Because I know when I was in high school, it was kind of taboo for really anybody but the football team to have a strength and conditioning program. And now we've got both boys and girls participating in.
Yeah, we had more girls participate this summer than we've ever had participate. And some coaches, within our girls' sports really promoted it, and it was there to see them. Yeah, having somebody who is trained, who has a passion for that stuff. Mike, as I mentioned before, came from Michigan State, where he worked with multiple athletic teams at Michigan State, knows what needs to happen. And it looks different. I think that's the one thing is everybody thinks that a kid who's been doing it for 2 or 3 years should be doing the same thing that a kid showing up from the first day should do. And that's not Mike's philosophy. It's working your way in, getting an understanding of how your body actually works, building a core to where you can actually do some of those, more advanced things. He really focuses on that. I know for some kids it's frustrating because they'll see kids, pushing a bunch of weight or doing some different exercises, but it's because of the training thing. We all know. I'm not going to go run a marathon today. I'm going to fall over after a mile. I haven't trained myself for that, right? And I might need to start around the block. And that's at a walking slow pace. But he really works hard to make sure that kids are getting their body prepared for those next steps, getting them, to where they're using their muscles right, having the correct stances, making sure that they are utilizing their body the way it's supposed to be, lifting right, bending right, flexibility, all those things. I think Mike Smith would probably tell you when we first brought on Mike Bucata, Mike, to your point, Brad, was the guy who oversaw the weight room. And he was going to, he's here. He oversaw it. And it was predominantly his kids because he required his kids to be there. And I think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but he had to have a transition period too, to where it was changing the philosophy and changing some of the ideas of what Mike Bucata was going to come in and do, and how it was training the whole athlete, not training it to be a football player or a basketball player or a soccer player. It was training to be an athlete. We want athletes. We hire coaches to train them how to be good at the specific sport, to teach them skills to be good at that sport. But we want to train athletes on how to be athletic. We can do that, and Mike's done a great job, I think, over the last 3 years doing that.
Well, I can personally attest because last summer I showed up and went through a workout with Mike and the football team actually, and I've never been more exhausted in my entire life. 45 minutes, he got more out of me than I would do just going to the gym on my own, and it was an intense, focused workout. It was non-stop activity, and I really, really appreciate the fact that Mike can target. I played football in high school and college. Every football player that's worth his salt goes to the weight and lifts. But unless there's a specific focus on getting the non-football athletes, female athletes, younger athletes feeling comfortable in that environment, you're never going to grow your athletic program. Never. So I really appreciated what Mike did by dividing kids up by experience level. You might be a football player but never looked at a weight in your life. So you're not going to be thrown in with the kids that have been in the weight room their entire life. It's intimidating. You're uncomfortable. It's not appropriate to you. And it isn't appropriate for an experienced weightlifter who wants to go in there and be with other athletes that know what they're doing and they want to go through a faster paced workout. So very educationally sound practice you would put kids in likability levels together. And to hear what Chad's saying, I've seen it firsthand on Lapeer, where all of a sudden you're seeing 25, 30, 40, 50 young women in the weight room. It doesn't happen. Or middle school age athletes or young freshmen, first-time high school athletes feeling comfortable. And really, when you hire someone to make that the focus, all your coaches have to do is tell them, get in there. Right? It's hard if you're not trained, to Shad's point, if you're not trained in weightlifting and conditioning, it's an art, like anything. And now that you've got someone whose sole focus is that for all athletes at all ability levels, now as a coach, I don't have to individually write a curriculum for my athletes. I know it's the right thing to do. I know I want them in there. I know it's better that they're there than not, but I don't know how to do it. Well, we've hired Mike and given him the reins to say, all you coaches have to do is hold your kids accountable and get them in there. We are going to see benefits from this for the long term, I guarantee you.
I agree. I mean, this summer was the most females we've had in our summer program in any time that I can remember. I think they benefited a ton. So.
I have to laugh because you're so right on the getting them in the weight room and different experience levels. I'll never forget the day that my son, the football player, got his sister to go to the gym with him, and she couldn't walk the next day because she was dying from his weight conditioning. So. I'm excited about Huddle. You know, I have to say, I don't think people realize that, you know, from a recruiting standpoint for kids, that's awesome because they use these films to get recruited and go to college. So I think that's really important to mention that not only is it great for the coaches, but for the students themselves. You know, my son made his Huddle video, and that's how he got to play college ball. I think that's really important. And I'm really excited about the Health Class partnership.
Yep.
Just because you said, like you said, we're dealing with a community organization. I know the halftime PT or the halftime physical trainer came from Grand Valley and is a Lapeer grad, and I just think that's awesome. So we got some great hometown connections that are really exciting. One of the questions that I have that I didn't see addressed, and I think this is probably something that's always a problem, or always maybe that's why it's not mentioned, is coaching, getting coaches. I think, isn't that always, it seems like we saw a lot of advertisement this last, you know, before we knew what was going to happen, we saw a lot of advertisements for coaches, and so I just.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mixed bag because you know, we have our coaches like a Mike Smith who's done it since 1984, right? In some fashion, some way, of coaching some level or something.
I think
I believe
Mike's
that's-
still in
wow.
college. And
I believe that's I believe she had been 1884.
It's a good year. And we have our coaches who fill the spot because they're dad of a kid on the team and they want to move on with those kids, right? They don't want to be tied down to they miss their own kid stuff. That's not a Lapeer issue. That is across the board. You know, and the other piece of it too is not as many teachers these days are willing to take the coaching piece up. And I understand, I'm not saying anything bad, but just there used to be 20 years ago more coaches that were teachers. And then ideally, that's what we want. We know that kids being in our classrooms, kids being in our buildings, and being with those professionals, we want that in our extracurriculars too. So yeah, do we advertise it? Yeah, we advertise big time because, especially at the middle school level,
I just wonder if we also instill that into our kids, that hey, someday come back and be a coach for us. Now that you've got this flexible work schedules and you're working from home and all these things that are going on, maybe we can instill that in them too.
And I think we're getting some of those younger coaches that went through our schools, either went to the workforce, went to college, and are coming back to do some stuff. I know we've hired a couple of those in the off season right now, and our older coaches are getting to the point where they're getting ready to hang it up a little bit. So you're right. It's getting some of that younger blood in there that are willing to take it. The other piece too, and we talk about this with our parents a ton, is our coaches across the board, the things they have to deal with, and parents being a big piece of that really, really hurts our younger coaching staff.
Just like
because,
shortage.
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, our coaches don't necessarily know how to deal with it. You're 23, 24 years old in the coaching realm, and a parent is berating you because of playing time or unfair treatment. Those kids aren't willing to stick around. They're not, and that's across the board. So it's really training our community on how to treat our coaches. That's one thing we talk about our 24-hour policy, so that there's collective heads when it comes to having a conversation. But that's a big piece of it. That's why it's a coaching piece, but it's also an official piece too. Our average age for officials in the state is around 55, 56 years old. And it's because they're trying to recruit young guys to come in and do those same things that coaches are doing, and they can only take so much chipping from the fans, and they're like, I'm not doing this for $60 a game or $70 a game. There's no way I'm doing this. Why would I give up a Friday night or a Tuesday night when I could be doing my own thing or just spending time with my family? That's a big, big worry. And with COVID, it's even a bigger worry because officials who are at that age and even older are saying, I'm not going to come back because I'm worried about my health. So we're even going to be having more shortage of officials because of this thing. So I mean, I'm really curious once the entire state is up and running, hopefully, what that is going to look like. Because we are going to be short officials in every athletic unit that we have.
Thank you.
To make just a comment, I want to just talk about middle school. The reason, and I'm glad that one of the first projects that the athletic boosters did was timers for cross country, because, I mean, I don't know if you can find a kid, I dare you to find a kid that doesn't love Mr. B. He's building and has built a cross country program from the ground up, because he works with those kids from the time they're little, gets them all fired up, and they love him. And he's a great example of what we have to offer in our district, and just sort of that building, and like Mike has over the years, he gets the kids when they're young, keeps them interested, and keeps them coming back. So it's just a huge shout out to Mr. B. Not that we don't have great coaches all across the board, but I know, I mean, his passion for his sport is infectious. I don't know anything about cross country, and I would never want to run it, but he gets me fired up. Yeah, I mean, he's just wonderful. And the other thing, use your platform at MHSAA, because right now I see it as a little different. We haven't lost seasons yet. We still have opportunities to play. They may be delayed, they may be pushed back till spring. This isn't like it was last March, where all of a sudden it's just done. So, I mean, if they can delay, they can whatever, postpone, whatever platform you got, whatever tool you got, use it. Because I don't think we should have to look at we lost seasons. So,
right now, Mike, I would totally agree with that. We're just delayed. In the hopes that it doesn't get canceled.
right.
I mean, and Mike will tell you, I've tried the most optimistic guy out there. I think I poured a lot of purple Kool-Aid for our coaches in the summer, saying, we're going. So trying to stay upbeat, saying we got to continue to, get through this so that we keep that mindset, that keep our kids where they need to be, so that they're ready to go when that day comes.
So back in 1884, when Mike and I were in school, if you would have told Mike and I back then that, you know what, you're not going to play in the fall, but you're going to play in the spring, we'd have killed ourselves and make sure we're ready in the spring. And so, I mean, kids just want to play.
Absolutely do. Absolutely.
Thanks, Chad.
Just one quick comment. I just want the coaches to really know, as a parent of an athlete, she plays both soccer and volleyball, that the things that the coaches did in the spring to keep those kids as much engaged as they did was phenomenal. I mean, they're checking on Zoom with them, giving them things to do. They had contests. I mean, it was really unique, and it kept the kids going. And already this fall, I know the kids are devastated, especially the volleyball girls. They are, because they want to be playing, they want to be in a gym, but they're having a memorable season and experiencing other things that they may not have, because they would be more focused on their competitions, but it allows them to do more as a team together and get to know one another. So I just think right now the coaches, it's got to be hard on them, but they're doing a great job.
I'll pass that along.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shad.
Yep.
Okay. Board member communication. Any communication for the station?
Board, I just want to spend my last board member communication topic to say goodbye and let you know that I've been honored to serve with this board and previous boards for the last 15 years. This district is very different from when I started. I would know that. It's been through a lot of ups and downs, and it has really built into a magnificent institution. And the reason why is because of you. Your hearts and your minds are in the right place. And what I mean is this board has stayed apolitical and has just driven for excellence. You're always looking for the best outcome. And I appreciate all the work that you're doing. I just want you to know this is going to be my last board meeting. Ruth and I did find our retirement home. It was actually kind of a freak thing because we went out just to kind of look. Well, we looked and we came home with a house. So we are going to be moving, and I'm going to be resigning as of October 4th, so I will not be at the next meeting. But, I'm going to miss you all.
Other comments?
Yeah, first of all, Michael, thank you. new to this, but thank you for all your years, your knowledge, and hopefully we continue to make you impressed and happy with the way we keep the board moving and the school moving in the directions you guys started, so thank you for that. The other one is we had our golf outing for Leader Fund. It got postponed because of unfortunate things, and so we got it moved to this past weekend. We pulled it off even with some rain and extra wind, which was lovely in the morning. I think we had around 45 teams that came out for the day. We had, volunteers galore, because we have to have a volunteer on every single hole for morning and afternoon. It's amazing. So it's a big project. It's a big relief when it's done, but it came together and it was a lot of work because everything got moved to the fall. So I know Rick Fleming is, he had outing after outing after outing. So it was tough to make things happen, but we pulled it off, and pretty pleased with the attendance and the help and the support. So from the Leader Fund, thank you to everyone who came out, helped, played, supported one way or another. It was a success in a bad year. It was still a success, and that's what we like to see, and we'll keep things moving in the right direction as long as possible and get back to normal again next year, hopefully, for our June outing.
Wow, it was a shock, because I thought we had you by till December. But it's been an honor to have been on the board with you for the last 15 years, and we both got on for a big reason when we did run 15 years ago, to see our middle schools built. And that was accomplished. It is. It's been a great ride. I am not running again, so I thought we were both going off in December, but congratulations. Yeah, congratulations on your new house.
Oh, thank you.
And we'll miss you, yeah. Well, I got good news. It looks like maybe we'll be able to have the craft show. That's all I gotta talk to you. Because I thought that was kind of gone out of the wind for this year, which would have hurt our senior class again. So I sure didn't want to see that happen again to another class. And I do have a bit of sad news, which I don't know if you may know, but I just found out today, and Diana Connolly, who has been a very good friend of mine since we moved here and was an institution in this building, because she was the secretary of this building forever, and then went to West. Her husband Jim passed away last night. And so prayers go out to Diana and her family, because she's been around forever. And still works football games for the high school every year in the concession, or in the ticket booth, and yeah. So.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you, Mike. I was thinking about something witty I could say or whatever, but I figured I'd just start at the beginning, graduation day of 2014, when I met you down in the dungeons of what was then Perani Arena. And I remember shaking your hand and saying, hey, I hope to oust you in November. And thankfully that didn't happen. You've been a great mentor to me. Lord knows you and I have had our disagreements on a plethora of issues. I've surprised you with a few votes when you were president, and you've helped me grow as a person and as a board member, and I do appreciate you. Congratulations.
We've got a couple of things. First of all, going back to sports, I want to make sure everybody, we all in this room are on the same page, but I think a lot of times we need to work on parents in our district. I saw an article in the Free Press a couple of weeks ago where they were talking about all the football parents. And I would love to be one of them. I played it, I loved the game, very passionate about football. But it's, what are you hollering about? Because if we play the games, you're not going to be in the stands anyway. Let's get this figured out, and then let's go do it and do it right. And so I want everybody to understand, they're student athletes, and Chad, I appreciate that because he stressed that more than once. We're supposed to be building outstanding young men and women. Students that happen to play sports is what we put on the field and on the court. And so I hope everybody keeps that in mind. This isn't just all about that sport as much as I am a sports guy. This is about being a good student or being the best that you can in all things that you do. And so
I know as a district, that's what we're striving to do. It's not great, it's certainly not ideal that we're in the situation we're in, but part of growing as a young man or a young woman is learning to deal with things like we're dealing with right now. And so what better people to help you deal with it than those that we've provided to them. And so I appreciate, again, everyone who's in the sports arena. It's a crazy time. Keep up the good work. Secondly, I hope that everyone understands how important getting the kids back into the classroom is to this board. We are doing what we're doing with, in as graceful a way as we can, in as thoughtful a way as we can, and in an effort to maintain safety and security for all those involved. That being said, we can't get the kids back in the classroom, in my opinion, soon enough. They need to be there with their teachers. They need to be there face to face. They need to feel that experience and live that experience. And I'm more than happy to work with all of the folks that are involved and certainly defer to the wisdom of the group, because Lord knows we are fortunate to have a district filled with experts in education. I'm not one of them. But I want to make sure that everyone understands at least where I'm coming from. I want the kids back in the classroom much sooner than later, because I think it's a benefit for everyone. Third, I was surprised that Mr. Keller is doing what he's doing. On the other hand, what a great opportunity. I mean, this is something that I know that you're very passionate about. You've lived that life, you've done those things, and as part of the things that you've done and the life that you've lived, that allowed you to find a place that's ideal. I mean, I wish we could all be so lucky. And so I was thinking about, and Mr. Benedict can tell you, that when I have enough time to plan for someone's last meeting, I usually write these horrible limericks and
That's true.
it's true. try to make some fun and just enjoy the experience as best we can. I don't want to offend anyone in this room, and I mean anyone in this room, but I have to tell you from where I sit, and I hope you will all appreciate where I'm coming from. If I had to pick an MVP of this board over the 15 years I've been on it, he's sitting to my right. This is the most thoughtful, kind, and considerate board member I have ever served with on any board. Politics get checked at the door. He's never played that card. He's always been about one thing and one thing only, and that's what's best for the kids of this district. He led by example. He led from the front, and I know you will continue to do that. We have all been made better by you. And I mean, what a pleasure to serve with you. Like Denise, I'm sorry that I don't get to have at least the last couple of months with you. I'm sorry that newer board members don't have the opportunity to go forward with him. Some of us came to this board thinking we knew things, thinking we had it figured out. Well, I know somebody who did. And I know somebody, if he didn't, sat down, dug in, and then figured it out, and then not just kept it to himself, but shared it with everyone. That is the type of board member you want to be, and that is the type of board member that you want to serve with. And I mean, honestly, again, I can't think of a better example, and I certainly appreciate all you've done for our district. And for those that don't know Mike and don't know what he's done, for what little I just shared, I mean, trust me on this one. He's the real deal. Thank you, Mike, for everything you've done. Thank you, Mike.
I just want to say ditto to what Mike said, because he said it so well. Mike, it's my pleasure. I came on here new, and when you guys are gone, I'll be the senior member, which is really sad. That's because I haven't been on here that long. So I don't have the 15 years, but you have just been a great mentor, I would agree. Just so kind and compassionate and willing to share. And I think that's what's really been great. So I just am so appreciative of having the time to work with you, and I will miss you in the future. So I agree with, again, Mike, and I want the kids back in the classroom. I think he said it very well. I'm appreciative of everyone that has worked so hard to get us to all these plans. Like, we planned to come back, and then all of a sudden, things were changed. And it's trying. It's very challenging times. I think that the mental health of everyone is at stake at some point in all of this. And so I appreciate everyone for what they've done. I especially want to appreciate Nishan, who runs the virtual partnership. I can't imagine going through this and COVID and, you know, just the sheer number, I think, of increase that has happened with that. So I'm thankful for that program, thankful for the leadership, thankful for, like I said, what everyone's doing to keep us going and keep us moving forward and helping our kids, like Chad said. I really appreciated that comment about these kids need to be playing sports, they need to be in the classroom. You know, it's a big issue, bigger than I think we even realize. Thank you.
Well, Mike, I would like to present to you certificate of recognition of your 15 years of being on the board. And the last 10 of them as being president, I wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you and being a mentor to me. And I have some really tough shoes to fill as president.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I guess we just.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have another thing that happened.
I'm sorry.
We'll finish.
Poor Mike.
I thought I was gone.
Poor Mike.
So with your resignation, we have been in contact with the MASB about filling the vacancy. And with the resignation as of October 4th, it will allow us to fill the vacancy with one of the upcoming electees of the election in November. So we will put a name in a hat, draw it out, and have that person come on board in December. So
That's great.
we'll be able to do it in that fashion.
Somebody started.
And then my other comment too is I just want to reiterate as well the importance of our kids going back to school face to face. I mean, we can see already some of our districts in the state of Michigan that have gone back, and the kids are excited. They're willing to follow every protocol they're asked to, and I know our kids want to so badly be back with their teachers, their friends, their bus drivers, lunch people. I mean, they want to see everybody. So we'll do whatever we can, work as a team to get us there. So with that, Mr. Superintendent Wander, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam President. A couple things. Leader Fund outing, I wanted to recognize Craig and his leadership for that. You know, and it's funny because you listen to Craig talk about that, you listen to Denise talk about the craft show, and I think I just want to highlight the people sitting up here as board members. This is kind of a thankless volunteer job when you really look at it. You give up so much time and energy to be a board member, but these truly are people that have been invested in the community long before they sat in these chairs. And they continue to serve in a number of community organizations, giving to kids, giving to our staff. And it's remarkable to me that there's not greater appreciation for the level of commitment that is the collective spirit of this group of people. And it's very nice as a superintendent to serve alongside community members who are a total part of this school district. Some of you are current parents, some are former parents, some are grandparents, right? Some are former students. And not just the time you dedicate to the board, but the hours outside of that truly speaks to the depth of commitment that you have as community members. A board member is just a single hat that many of you wear. So I just wanted to take time to appreciate that. I was at the outing, was great. Weather was terrible in the morning, but it got a little nicer in the afternoon. I wanted to take a special moment and introduce a newer member of our team who's with us tonight. Mike, could you stand up, please? This is Mike Priest. Mike is our new Senior Technology Coordinator. Mike joins us as part of the Open Schools team, and he is obviously replacing Nick Ward, who served the district for many years, but with the advent of the service agreement we have with Open Schools, Mike has really unique experiences, both as an ISD employee and also serving at local districts in a very similar capacity. So while many of you might think, well, that's great, we have this new arrangement with Oakland ISD, Mike served in an identical capacity with Holly Schools in his most recent assignment, so understands local school district issues, has really hit the ground running well, has a very, very solid focus on instructional technology and support for our staff. We are really excited about the level of service and support that we're going to have from the ISD with our new partnership and with Mike's leadership. Already heard a lot of compliments, been very impressed with the transition, especially given our technology needs with the COVID piece. So I just wanted to introduce Mike and Priest and welcome him to Lapeer Schools officially with the board. The third item I wanted to discuss is the return to school plan. I outlined in our staff return that we are going to immediately begin a task force, which is a number of employees from all different corners of the district. Tomorrow, an invitation is going to go out to over 60 people in our district. That includes parents, it includes board member representation, and folks from every corner of the district. We're going to have 3 meetings, and the sole focus is identifying barriers to our face-to-face return and coming up with solutions as a team to make sure that when October 5th comes, we're prepared to get our kids back in the classroom. So that work begins tomorrow. I'll put that email invitation to those meetings, and I will share updates with the board as appropriate. And we recognize, and I think many of us are parents ourselves, and the toll that the COVID period has taken on families, on students, on missed opportunities. It's been a difficult time for those of us that can identify as moms and dads. And we hear the community in their continued quest to have their children back in school. And our plan as a district, I hear a lot of clear from the board, many of our staff is to deliver on that promise. Hit a bump in the road, no doubt, but I really like what Mike said earlier about the benefits of our young people being involved in athletics. There's a lot of smart adults in this community, and if we all put our minds to it, we can solve any challenge. We've done it before, we can do it again, and if we get all boats pointing in the same direction, I have no doubt we can overcome the logistics that have proven challenging to get our kids back in school. So, Mr. Keller, it's funny I'm so glad I get to be the last to speak about you, because I made a list of words that I feel describe you the best, and no pride in authorship, most of them have been mentioned already. And I'll just share the list. When I think of you, Mike, I think of kindness, you're calm, you're measured, you're selfless, you're caring, you're thoughtful, you're strong, you're a district first person. And the last word I put down was apolitical, because, and you mentioned it, that represents this board in large part because of who you are as a person. This board adopted that characteristic because of your leadership. And I can't tell you how reassuring that's been for me as the superintendent to know that the heart of our board was always about our kids and our staff and our programs and what was best. And very rarely in my 10 years of working with you did I ever hear you even think about the political ramifications. And we're all political beings. It's hard not to be, especially in today's day and age. So to have someone that represents this board that led in such a manner that disregarded the politics of many of the difficult decisions that we've had to make over the years was very, very reassuring. Mike is one of 3 of the remaining original board members that hired me, which can be a disconcerting feeling for a superintendent. Yeah, especially when I look at Greg. Can we keep him at that seat, please? I need him as far away as possible. Maybe even a little further, right? But one of the things, and Summer mentioned this in the transition from Mike's leadership of the board to Summer's, truly selfless in his time and talent to make that transition a smooth one. I think it's been a tremendous transition. not just because we've got a very talented person to fill your seat, but also because of your shoulder-to-shoulder guidance. Mike, we look back just in 10 years. The number of building closures, addition of new programs, the high school merger. We stood together in some difficult rooms, faced some challenging community members and issues, and we had always done it together. Professionally and personally, Mike is a confidant of mine. I agree with Brad that I have grown professionally and personally as a result of our relationship. Sometimes board superintendent dynamics can be a challenge. I can honestly say that having been a superintendent now for almost 10 years, and like Shad, being very actively involved at the state level and talking to my colleagues, friends who are superintendents or serve on boards, we really are blessed to be a part of a functional team that cares, that understands our respective roles, because they are unique and they are different and they're all very important. And Mike has been an absolutely integral part of keeping this board focused and together, keeping me on the right track in some monumental change. I remember telling a consultant who I worked with many years ago in the Department of Education, our first 2 or 3 years together, and the first thing he said to me was do you want to keep this job? Like, why are you guys doing all this change so quickly? And I said, we got a good board, we can get it done. And that was all to do with Mike. Personally, getting to know his boys and his wife has been a real blessing for me. A wonderful, wonderful family. Your friendship, your guidance, your support of me personally has meant a great deal. And I don't know if I would, I don't know if I'd still be here if it wasn't for you. I really appreciate all that you've done. So we're gonna miss you. And we got robbed in a couple extra months of your leadership, but I think I speak for everybody when we're very, very happy for you, and it's a beautiful site you guys have picked out. I know the years are going to be great. So congratulations.
I was gonna say that picture that probably brings tears to my eyes here, but I'll tell you that, look, and that's what matters right there. My son up there, but that my son is just as important as every other child in this district, that right there. That's what matters. Keep that in mind in all of your decisions. You can't go wrong.
That's right. Thank you all. I'm gonna miss you.
Thank you, Superintendent.
That's it, Madam President. Thank you.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
Support?
okay, I have a motion and support. Mrs. Novak?
Aye.
Mr. Nolan?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Mrs. Becker? Dr. Lasser?
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam says aye. Motion carries.